Hello and welcome to GameSack. Sorry we're a week late, but we had some health issues. I had to have some surgery to get my gallbladder removed, and what the hell was wrong with you?
Oh, I just caught the flu, it's something mildly less impressive than gallbladder surgery.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about video games because we are back, and this time we're talking about arcade to console conversions. And,
That's right.
Differences and similarities between them.
Mm-hmm. We had such a great time with the last episode we did with this topic.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
And we decided to revisit it again with 6 more fun games.
Yep.
So why don't you take it off this time?
Yeah, here we go. Super Contra came out in the arcades in 1988. It's an outstanding run-and-gun game by Konami, which won't let you down as it's a blast to play. You've got side-scrolling and top-down levels. This game is not easy though. It only has 5 stages, so you think you might have a chance at seeing the ending, but good luck. The control is good, but I found that your character moves a bit too slow for my taste, and it makes it even more tough to stay alive. As with all Contra games, the type of gun you wield will pretty much determine how long you stay alive. Your continues are also limited. The music is good, no surprise as Konami tends to always be good. The game is fairly colorful, but uses a lot of earth tones in the character clothing and parts of the level, making it not tremendously eye-popping. In 1990, this game got brought to the NES, and for whatever reason, they called it Super C. There are quite a few differences to this version. Firstly, the colors seem a lot more bold than its arcade counterpart. I like this, and it's more pleasing to my eyes, even if it's less detailed overall. Also, character and enemy graphics are different. Instead of exploding with alien tentacles, enemies now just disappear with a flame ball after being shot. The music is remixed, but still has that wonderful Konami feel to it. I also feel that the control of your character is much better in this version. He moves much faster and it's easier to dodge enemy fire. Even level design has been reworked from the arcades. You'll have some different bosses and the levels are a bit shorter as well. But the NES has 8 levels compared to the 5 of the arcade, so it equals out and it actually makes the game much more enjoyable. And finally, Operation C was released to the Game Boy in 1991. I only include this game because it plays so much like Super C. It has 5 stages and 2 of these stages are top-down while the rest are side-scrolling. This game plays very well for a Game Boy game, and the music is outstanding with tunes from both Contra and Super C. Also, this game has a machine gun as your default weapon, leaving only 3 power-ups for your gun. You have spread, homing, and fire gun. Stages are a bit different and the bosses are all different, but it's got that Super C feel to it. And is one of the Game Boy games that I've had the most fun with, so check it out! Here's all 3 versions side by side. I definitely enjoy the NES version the best, and the Game Boy version is great as well. But you really can't go wrong playing any version of Super Contra.
e-swat was a run-and-gun game by Sega released in 1989. Basically, it's kinda sorta a RoboCop ripoff as you play a human cop who eventually gets promoted to wearing a kick-ass cyber suit.
Hey, let's party!
That's right, shooting up bad guys is party time for our hero cop. Even kids on skateboards are fair game. Anyway, you run down the street shooting everything you see. You also pick up extra ammo as it's not unlimited. Some bad guys will even use a human shield, so be careful.
Oh, thank you, officer!
Oh, you're quite welcome. Sorry I shot you a couple of times. Once you get promoted to full e-swat level, you have a rapid-fire machine gun, again with limited ammo. If you run out of ammo, well, you're just gonna have to punch and kick. You can also collect a few special weapons which can only be used a few times, that is, until you collect another special weapon. As you take damage, your cyber suit shatters away, revealing the weak-ass human inside. Personally, I thought this was a pretty cool touch. The graphics are nice and bright, though the color seems slightly washed out. The music is adequate, though sometimes it seems a bit too quiet. Overall, the game is pretty damn fun to play. I remember after I first played the game in the arcade, I told my friend who recently moved to Utah how awesome the game was and how there were huge lines of people waiting to play it. Well, I lied. There were no lines, at least not for e-swat. I just wanted them to think that Sega was badass. Well, they were.
e-swat.
e-swat came home to the Genesis not long after. Now, for whatever reason, they completely changed the game here. The heart of the game remains the same with a police officer in a cyber suit, but the levels and enemies are completely different. Well, actually, a few arcade enemies do make an appearance. Once again, you start out as a regular cop, but now you have unlimited ammo. These scenes are actually pretty fun to play. The control is nice and tight, even if the enemy can be a bit unfair. Level 2 puts you in a weird prison maze thing, but it's fun and easy once you figure it out. Then in level 3 you get your cyber suit, and honestly, here's where I think the game takes a turn for the worse. The control is now kinda clunky and you have a sporadic burner which adds a boost to flight. You can also gain a lot of really cool weapons, all of which have unlimited ammunition. But if you die, you also lose the weapon that you were using. I swear, some bosses absolutely require a certain weapon, so it gets really frustrating really fast. The graphics are fairly good for an early 4 megabit game, and most of the music is okay. I really like the boss music actually. There are also a few really great sounding voices in here, like when you complete a level.
Mission completed.
When you beat a level with the cyber suit on, he says,
Them the brakes.
okay? Overall, this is a decent game, but it doesn't really try to bring the arcade experience home for some reason. e-swat also came to the Master System, and this is actually a port of the arcade. Well, kind of. I always thought it looked really ugly, even for a Master System game, as they usually only showed screenshots of the first level in the magazines. If not that, then they showed this screen with the blocky ass e-swat sign. Yeah, sign me up. Suffice it to say, I stayed far away and I never even had a chance to rent it. But you know what? This game is actually pretty good. Granted, only the first few levels are actually based on the arcade, but the gameplay is actually way more faithful than the Genesis version. You can shoot in more directions than the Genesis and even the arcade versions, and once again when you take hits, you lose more and more armor. Your ammunition is also back to being limited. You've also got special weapons, but since the Master System only has 2 buttons, I found it kind of a chore to use them. The graphics and sounds aren't anything special, but don't get me wrong, they're nowhere near as bad as the magazines made them out to be. Still, this game can be a bit ridiculous. Just how am I supposed to avoid taking massive damage here? Well, I can't, and I've still never seen past this part. Here's a side-by-side of all 3 versions of e-swat. Overall, I definitely like the arcade version the best, and the Master System turned out to be a lot better than I expected it to be. But both that and the Genesis versions can be pretty tough. And honestly, it's a draw which version of the game I'd rather play at home.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out in 1989 and was one of the best arcade beat-em-ups of its time. Depending on the cabinet, it came as a 2-player game or the deluxe 4-player game that was by far the best version. Based on the cartoon series, this game features all of your favorite friendly and enemy characters. From the 4 Turtles, Splinter, and April, to all types of foot soldiers, grunts, mousers, Krang, and Shredder. There are 5 levels you'll have to battle through here. The Turtles control really well, and you'll have a lot of fun bashing and slashing your way through this game. The music is really upbeat with lots of great tunes, and the game is just overflowing with color and awesome animation. Konami brought this home to everybody's favorite console in 1990, the NES. Since there was already a really crappy Turtles game on the market, they called this one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. You can play alone or with a friend, and it actually has 2 extra stages not found in the arcade. Plus, most of the arcade stages have been lengthened. This is a great representation of the arcade game despite being on an 8-bit system. You'll notice here and there that Pizza Hut ads were placed on the walls in pizza boxes. I wonder how well this paid off for them. The control is fairly good, but the hit detection seems a bit off to me, but you should still be able to figure it out and work with it. The boss battles in this version seem way harder to me. It's tough to get in close to a boss without getting hit constantly, and this usually results in you losing at least 1 life during the fight. But, as you can see by the end of the game, I adapted, and my skills at fighting Krang and Shredder are undeniable. The music's great and captures the feel of the arcade game and the cartoon. If you like good beat-em-ups, you would be insane not to like this game. Here's how the arcade and the NES version compare. I think they did a really great job here, especially considering the hardware differences. Yep, well I covered 2 Nintendo games and you only covered 1 Sega game, which is
Those weren't Nintendo games, they were both Konami games. What the hell are you talking about?
I don't see them on the Sega system though.
Yeah, okay, you got me there. Yeah, well, of course I've got more Sega games to cover, and well, let's take a look at one of them that really impressed the hell out of me back in the day. Thunderblade by Sega showed up in 1987. It's inspired by the movie Blue Thunder starring the ever-lovable Roy Scheider. In fact, they took the title screen directly from the film. Anyway, you fly a helicopter and shoot down bad guys. I'll tell you, nobody made arcade games like Sega. I mean, just look at this. And this is from 1987. Sega games always stood out from the rest in any arcade, and that's really what helped me become such a loyal fan. Anyway, in this game, you start out with an overhead view shooting tanks, trucks, and helicopters below you. You know, at the time, I thought this was insanely awesome because you could just zoom in and out at will. I even loved all the flat layers that made up all the buildings. Absolutely no one else had done anything like it. Now remember, this is 1987 here. Once you get done with this, the view flips to a third-person perspective behind your copter. You don't really need to kill the enemies here, you just need to survive. Then, the view flips back to an overhead view and you take out the boss, which again, you basically just need to survive until it scrolls off screen. The final boss is really the only one that actually needs to be destroyed. Now, while the gameplay will never win any awards, to me it was still fun as hell because the control was great and the amount of freedom you had while flying around was just exhilarating. There are only 4 stages here, but each of them are pretty fun to look at and it's really tough not to get hit by the enemies. Still, I love this game even if it was basically only a tech demo. I always wondered how this game would look when it showed up on a home console. Thunderblade came home the next year to the Master System. Oh man, did they ever botch this one up. The overhead scenes are still here and they play okay, but right away you'll notice that this game is relentless. I mean, all of these helicopters and other vehicles want nothing more in the world than for you to die. Moving on to the third-person portion of the stage, and is pretty choppy as you can see and only really vaguely resembles the arcade. There's no throttle in this game, your speed is stuck at insanely fast. Yeah, these caves are super easy at this speed. It's really hard to dodge enemy fire in this game. Look at that. That's how much of an asshole this game is. It keeps shooting you even when you're dead. You simply can't be dead enough. You only have 3 lives and 2 continues to make it through the entire game. Screw this. Super Thunderblade was a launch game for the Genesis. Would we finally get a good home port of Thunderblade? Hell no. I mean, just look at it. There's only one type of building in the entire city and just look how they move forward. It's so jumpy, it's almost insulting. They took away the overhead portions of the level and replaced them with these intro scenes which show your helicopter launching. The boss fights are still overhead though. There's no throttle here, but you do have a brake button. You'll need to use this a lot because otherwise you'll find yourself flying forward much too fast. And it seems like the hitbox on your chopper is nearly a quarter of the screen and sometimes it's just impossible not to get hit. Yeah, how am I expected to fly through that hole and avoid the enemy shot? So why did they call it Super Thunderblade? Well, this version has more music and most of it's pretty good. There are also mid-level boss fights which kind of remind me of the final boss in the arcade version. The bosses now have a different look to them as well. But really, this game is a horrible mess of bad graphics and bad programming. So who programmed it? Why, none other than Yuji Naka, famous for Phantasy Star and Sonic the Hedgehog. Good job, Naka-san. Finally, we have Thunderblade for the PC Engine, a game that never made it to the US for the TurboGrafx 16. Well, this is interesting. It looks like they tried to mimic the layered buildings of the overhead views. Kind of neat, I suppose, but they only did it for the first and the last stage. Going to the third-person view, the game looks like it tried, but it's still a far cry from the arcade game. I guess it's slightly less embarrassing than the buildings in the Genesis version because they at least tried to match the color scheme of the arcade. I like the music in this version because the PC Engine sound goes really well with this type of music. Here's all 4 versions of Thunderblade together. Now obviously the arcade is by far the best version. The problem with the home ports is they just can't match the graphics of the original, and when you strip that all away, what you're left with really isn't worth playing. That's Thunderblade for you. All graphics, not much underneath.
Ninja Gaiden showed up in the arcades in 1988. This game comes to you as a side-scrolling beat-em-up. As is the case with all Ninja Gaiden games, the difficulty is ramped up as high as it gets. A true quarter muncher and also a butt muncher if you ask me. The game is pretty colorful and chock full of detail, but damn, this game is stupid hard. Your character moves a bit on the slow side, but thankfully your enemies also move very slow. You don't have too many moves here. You can collect swords and such via power-ups that are hidden in signs and barrels, but they don't last very long. I found the best move in this game was the throw, and ended up using it almost exclusively because it was the easiest thing to pull off. Just trying to fight with only your fists will most likely get you killed. Good luck getting anywhere in this game as it's just truly hardcore. I wasted the equivalent of $5 whole just to get to the 3rd level. Ninja Gaiden came home to the NES the next year and is nothing like the arcade. I mean, seriously, now it's an action platformer, and if I remember correctly, it was one of the first games with cutscenes to help tell the story. They're really well done. One thing that did make it home from the arcade is the difficulty. Actually, it might even be harder. For example, the enemies all have the NES syndrome where they regenerate if you move a bit one way and then back. Yeah, that one. This can get you in a lot of trouble if you're not careful. Also, the enemies are placed in some very cheap areas. Want to jump over this hole in the ground? Well, too bad, because there's a bat or a bird or another enemy character right where you need to land, so you can just go straight to hell. It's almost impossible not to get hit and bounce down that damn hole. Lastly, you can't change directions during a jump. Still, that's probably the least of my complaints. Anyway, if not for these 3 small issues, this would probably be the perfect game. It's really nice to look at, and the music's great too. I'd much rather play this than the arcade version, and I'm very glad they changed it. I think Tecmo knew the arcade version was a turd. Sega made a Master System version which plays very similar to the NES version, but it's still a completely different game than all other Ninja Gaiden games before it. Actually, you can change your direction during a jump in this version, but overall the control feels kind of slippery. The music in this game is okay, but it actually kind of hurts my ears. I'm sure Joe likes it though. Sega was even making a Genesis version that returned to the beat-em-up genre. This game was never released, so what we're looking at here is a buggy prototype. Anyway, most of the same enemies from the arcade are here, even the Splatterhouse guys. I like them. The game is pretty slow and everything's kind of small, but the music's pretty good. Oh, and I can't get past this screen. I guess Sega just gave up at this point. No surprise. It's a bit more enjoyable than the arcade, but it can't touch the NES version. And here we have the Lynx version of Ninja Gaiden. This is the only home port that tries to actually be a port of the arcade. They got it mostly right too. I mean, it looks and sounds quite primitive in comparison, but for what it is, they did a good job here. It even plays easier, as you can actually use plain old punches, but the throw is still here as well. I just can't figure out how to jump up to that pole. Oh well. And finally, Ninja Gaiden came to the PC Engine in Japan in 1992. This game is a port of the NES version, and as you can see, the graphics have been cleaned up. But even though it looks cleaner, is it really an improvement? Personally, I don't think so. Maybe it's the nostalgia that I have, but I think the NES version is better looking, sounding, and controlling. The developers added some scrolling to this version, but they messed up. The scrolling looks really strange and choppy. It almost looks like it scrolls the wrong way sometimes, and it's pretty distracting. Here's a quick comparison of the different Ninja Gaidens. As you can see, there's more difference than similarities, but I'll always choose the NES version as my favorite. Tell me what you think.
Everyone who was alive in 1987 remembers Sega's Shinobi. You're a ninja out to rescue all the kids and bring down the evil ninja clan. It's a side-scrolling action platformer, and it was the first time I recall ever needing to press down and jump to get back to where I was. Some guy wandering around in the arcade actually had to tell me to do this because I was a dumbass and I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, the action is really fast, but watch out, one hit and you're dead. You need to rescue all of the hostages to complete a stage. Some will even power you up with a sword for close range attacks and a gun, which is a more powerful main weapon. You lose these when you complete the stage though. You can also use ninja magic once per stage, and it can come in really handy. Between stages are bonus rounds where you can get an extra life if you kill all the ninjas. The graphics are nice and bright, and the music, well, it's classic, at least it is to me. This was a great arcade game, and I could not wait for Sega to bring it home for me to play. So I eagerly purchased Shinobi on the Master System a few months down the road. Now you actually have a life bar, and I really like that. They also let you upgrade and keep your weapons. For example, once you have a gun, you keep it until you die. You can also get a bunch of different close-range weapons as well. The look of the game is fairly similar to the arcade, but the game does not like scrolling vertically. When it does, it gets really choppy. I wonder why that is. Weird. In this version, you don't actually have to rescue the hostages at all, but they're how you power up, increase your life, and access the bonus rounds. The ninja magic has been changed. Now you need to rescue a certain hostage to access the bonus rounds, defeat that to earn the magic, and then kill 10 enemies in the next stage for it to become active, then you can use it. You know, honestly, it's not even worth trying to earn it. Another change that struck me as odd is now that every single stage has the same exact music and, well, it gets old pretty fast. Overall, the game is pretty good, but once you die, you lose all of your power-ups. Even your life bar goes back to the bare minimum. I hate it when games do that. I might as well just turn it off right then and there, but I can't. It's kind of addicting. Some of the jumps in here require a lot of precision. See? Okay, let's try it again. Damn it. Again? Okay. I'm not gonna be able to make this jump. Oh well, I didn't want to go over there anyway. Shinobi was released in Japan for the PC Engine by Asmik. This version is definitely like the arcade at first glance. But once you play it for a bit, you're gonna notice that all is not well in Shinobi land. First, there are no power-ups or even close-range weapons. Secondly, they completely took out level 2. Yep, it's just gone. Even the bonus stages are gone. But at least all of the music is here and it sounds pretty good. The graphics are a bit dark, but not too bad despite a lot of missing animation. It's the only home version that captures the playstyle of the arcade, sadly. Then there's the NES version by Tengen. Holy crap, just look at his eyes. Anyway, this one is based on the Master System version of the game. The rules are all pretty much the same, except now the physics are all messed up. The jumps are really floaty and the control seems to have some lag as well. It makes me even wonder if they even bothered to playtest this. I don't think they did. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of luck if you can even survive the first few seconds of a stage. Everything looks so washed out. Oh man. It even has that same song for each stage, but it's even more annoying here. And now the game only scrolls horizontally. There's no vertical scrolling at all anywhere. Maybe that costs money. Stay away from this one. And here's all 4 versions of Shinobi. Obviously the arcade version is the best, but the Master System version really isn't bad at all. It's quite fun. Even the PC Engine version is fun despite missing half the game. Shinobi was the first game in a fantastic series. Alright, those are some cool arcade to home conversions, I thought.
Yeah, most of them were very cool.
Yeah.
Most of them.
And anyway, let us know if you'd like to see certain arcade to home conversions discussed in the future if we cover this topic again. And, you know, if we have the games, maybe we'll cover them.
Yes, that's a big maybe, but there's a maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching GameSat. Catch you next time.
Dear GameSack, first off, I would like to say that you have the best channel on YouTube. And if it wasn't for you, I would probably be in prison by now.
What?
That's a little odd. Okay. I love every topic that you guys cover, but my favorite one is arcade to home conversions.
Hey, we just did a show on that.
We
believe it or
just
not.
did.
Remember?
Amazing. Yeah. I thought I would send you a list of games I would like to be seen on the next episode based on this topic.
Ooh, okay, let's
All
hear
right,
it.
well, let me read them off.
Okay.
Narc,
No, I don't like that one.
Tattooed Assassins,
No, that sounds stupid.
Time Traveler.
What's
That hologram game by Sega. Remember that
Oh,
one?
that was stupid.
Yeah, they didn't like it. Name That Tune.
That's stupid.
I'm not naming any tunes, I'm telling you that.
Okay.
Hangman,
No.
Professor Pac-Man.
Never even heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard of Pac-Man though.
Okay.
Miss Nude World 96.
Ooh,
Or
I
Miss World
think we
Nude.
can do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there a
Well,
more
we'll look
current version though? Maybe.
I don't know.
Something from the 2000s?
We'll be more than happy to check.
Thanks for your consideration. Your best friend ever, Dwayne. Dwayne.
Oh crap, he's still alive?
I guess so.
Huh.
P.S. Did you get that $5,000 I sent each of you for being
I
my
didn't get $5,000.
I shouldn't have read that. That's